And I believe we are live. We
Hello.
are. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Gehenna Gaming. This is our very first actual play of a tabletop game, which I'm extremely excited to cover. We're going to be playing KULT Divinity Lost. I am Archosius. I'm going to be the GM. We have with us the lovely Erykah, who is a very ubiquitous, very talented writer. So I'm extremely excited to have her on. This session, we are going to be. Last session we covered Def Malkavian's character creation. This session we're going to be covering Erykah's character creation. So, if you have not watched the very first session zero with everybody on so you can meet all the players and we kind of do a deep dive discussion first session, talk about the horror contract and everything else. I suggest at some point after the stream, or if you're watching this on YouTube at a later stream, kind of go back into the records and check out some of our earlier last two episodes. But for now, without further ado, we have KULT Divinity Lost. This is Good Intentions. Many roads are paved with good intentions, and during this campaign, we will discover exactly where KULT Divinity Lost will lead us. Before we begin, I want to let you guys know that you can follow us on Twitter at Gehenna Gaming. We have a website, gehennagaming.com. Our Twitch stream, obviously, you're here. It's twitch.tv/Gehenna Gaming. You can Google us. We're all over the place. We are covering not just KULT Divinity Lost, but also Vampire the Masquerade, Call of Cthulhu, pretty much any horror tabletop game. And we are running events as well. So thank you so much for joining us. Please follow us. If you want to help support this podcast, this stream, all of our activities, we do have a Patreon. You can Google Gehenna Gaming and it's there. But in the meantime, Erykah, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic. That was a mouthful of me. Sorry about all that.
Well, you got to do what you got to do to get the show started. Can't blame you.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking before that this is your very first introduction to KULT.
It is. I've heard of it. I know that a couple of peers have worked on it, and my fiance is really excited because he's always wanted to kind of, learn more about cult and interested in getting into the books. So this is kind of an interesting way to experience it and then be able to go back to him and tell him what's going on
Ooh,
with the game and everything.
so you're kind of doing some probing for Colt in order to report back to the mothership and let everybody know that this is definitely a scary and awesome game to play.
Yeah, he's definitely a fan of horror.
Oh,
So
perfect. Yeah, well, he's in good company, and you are in good company. Hopefully, I will help you develop your character in the best way that I can. We're doing things a little bit differently. In the core book, it talks about this idea of a sleeper. Everybody in this game either kind of knows about the illusion and the scary monsters that exist behind the shadows, or they don't know anything at all. All of your characters, including you, Erykah, your character is not going to know anything about it. As far as you understand, the world is the way the world is. It's dark, it's depressing, it rains all the time. But we will kind of cover what that means as far as character creation. There's just minor differences. For those that are familiar with the game, you can get advantage. Excuse me. You can get two disadvantages, but as far as advantages go, you're limited as a sleeper. So, what does it mean to start off your character? You kind of have to flesh it out a little bit with each of the stats. I'm going to give a little bit of an intro here for those that might not know what a sleeper really is. I'm going to read a little bit of the book just to kind of give you a rundown. So, your past is obscured by flawed memories, and you try not to think about the future. You focus on the here and now, living through your TV's infinite offerings, internet forums, and the apps on your phone. Your life and your job are fine, but you still make sure that only to share the best snippets of your life. Where everything seems amazing. Everyone else has nice homes, great jobs, and you wouldn't want people to think that you're worse off than them, do you? After work, you usually watch TV until it's time to go to bed. You work out in the morning, during lunch, or on the way home. Everyone seems so perfect. So you'll motivate yourself to push you through your routine on the treadmill while listening to the latest podcast, perhaps Gehenna Gaming. By the way, we have a podcast coming out soon. Drinking low-fat milkshakes and eating prepackaged foods. People feel best when they don't focus on the negative thoughts. One of the blogs you read told you that. Above your bed hangs a piece of calligraphy, which reads, "I am now in charge of the way I feel, and today I am choosing happiness." That's nice to think about. You live your life in a bubble, filtering out shadows and shades of the gray in the world. You are one of the sleepers. Now, that's not you or your character. I mean, that's not what your player character is necessarily going to be, but it kind of gives you an idea. It's all about distraction. So I told you before the stream, and actually in our first session, to pick an archetype. And I do remember what your archetype was, but let's remind the watchers what your archetype really is.
I decided to go with the archetype of the Seeker.
Ooh, now what does that mean?
Well, the Seeker is someone who kind of has an idea that something's amiss, but they're not entirely sure what it is. And so they keep kind of picking at it slowly but surely. They don't know what they're entirely driven by, but what they want to do is find out what's going on.
Great. Great. So what that means for your character as far as the day-to-day. Let's talk about your occupation. What do you do for a living?
I created my character to be a student, so probably like a college student, kind of borderline conspiracy theorist. I mean, and stuff's going on. Kind of, been studying it, kind of been paying attention. It kind of mixes up with their studies in college, because maybe they're going into philosophy and maybe they're going into archaeology, stuff that kind of automatically lends itself to going down weird rabbit holes.
Ooh, I like that idea. Like in college, I took a couple of anthropology courses. If I suggest everyone to take them because they're a lot of fun. But you'll find these people that in these classes that it's their major, right? They are an anthropologist. They're in the school of anthropology, and they're very proud about that. But there's something about their interests. that go a little left of center. Maybe they might be curious about secret societies. They might be curious about the occult. Some of them might be even, pagan or Wiccan or what have you. So yeah. So, is you're a full time student, right? So, and you're really, really into your major. Like, maybe this is a major that you decided early on before you even started. You knew exactly what you wanted to do, right?
Yep, wanted to follow in the footsteps of their parent.
Now, what did their parents do?
Their parent, or their father, rather, because I want to be a little bit more defined in that. So
Mm-hmm.
their father was a professor at a New York university. Haven't quite decided which one since there's a few. But they studied like archaeology, philosophy as well. And, you kind of grow up idolizing your parent.
Yeah.
I mean, you grew up around that life. Like, your home was full of weird antiquities and like, off the wall relics of like, from your father's travels all over the world.
And there's something about that normalcy that really kind of helps build a character. Um, with a house that's full of those types of antiquities and basically having Indiana Jones as a dad, it's not so weird, and these things are not so awkward or strange or unusual.
Not really, no.
You know,
It's like you got like shrunken heads in a corner, masks hanging on the wall.
it's all par for the course. It's just different cultures, different practices, different rituals and dogma, right?
Correct.
So, that said, maybe to other people, she's she's got a certain kind of confidence about her. Like, what's in class? Is she comfortable? Um, she's obviously comfortable talking about this stuff in class, especially if it's an anthropology course.
Yeah, comfortable about it, but also, I've been in college anthropology courses before where it's like, you've got the students who are serious about anthropology, and then you got the ones who are just taking it kind of as a general education requirement.
Yep.
So you've got the student who's like, one of those dedicated ones who's just like, okay, cool. They're kind of reserved because they don't need to prove themselves. They know it,
Right.
but they definitely get annoyed by the people who state the obvious.
Yeah, so it's like, ugh, okay, like you're going through the definitions of what is a church, what is a cult in the anthropology perspective, and you kind of knew all this. This is all 199 level stuff.
Yep, and bored to tears.
So you mentioned that your character had a father who was a
Mhm.
professor. Now, there is something that happens in school where you can essentially kind of get some school paid for, at least a little bit of at a lower cost, if you do have relatives that are in the administration.
Yep.
Now, is this the same school? Does she go to the same school as her father or his father?
Yes.
Okay, so there is a little bit of something to prove on that end too. Is that kind of a stain on them, or is it just doesn't matter taking advantage of the
Um,
system?
it doesn't really matter. Like,
Hmm.
obviously, the character realizes that it's a privilege, but they're not going around crowing about it constantly. Like they're still there to prove themselves that they belong there and that they've earned the right to be there, whether or not their tuition's reduced or not, or whether or not the admissions might have been slightly more skewed in their favor.
Right.
They believe in their ability to succeed and that they got in on their own merit.
Yeah. So there's a certain level of pride.
Mhm.
And that's where the confidence comes from. Now, before we go into the statting out, let's talk a little bit about a little bit more about the differences between archetypes and sleepers. There are levels of in the core book. You have various sleepers. I don't remember how many off the top of my head, but there's quite a few. Excuse me, various archetypes. And you could kind of pick one, go through the list, and start building out a character. But these are essentially people that have experienced the terror and illusion and kind of peered back behind the curtain or had something unusual or strange happen to them in the past or connected to some otherworldly or supernatural existence or deity or demon or entity. They have an awareness that this reality is not exactly as solid as they once thought when they were younger. Whereas sleepers have no idea. So when you go through the character creation phase, there are certain things that you're able to pick, and certain things you can't really pick. For example, if you have someone who's cursed, that's really based around the idea of a dark secret, right, and an awareness of that dark secret. Um, if and it involves something supernatural. So, if you are having one sleeper that is cursed, they really shouldn't necessarily know about it. Maybe that's something you discover over the course of the game. At the same time, it's also suggested that all the players are sleepers at the same time, or they are all archetypes. But as you go through the game, if you start as a sleeper, you essentially, you build XP and you're able to kind of you transform into this archetype, right? From a mechanics perspective, which is really cool. This game is going to be focusing on that concept, the concept of not knowing of anything supernatural or strange going on in your current state of existence and reality, and kind of moving through that threshold. So we talked about, I want to talk about appearance in a second, but before we
Okay.
get there, because you've hinted at some, we've heard gender, we've heard some familial things. I think I get an idea of a relation, but let's talk about disadvantages. This could be, you get two of them. This can be the character's personal failings, negative personality traits, adverse conditions, or external threats in the form of individuals, institutions, and the book says creatures and supernatural powers, but we're going to leave that aside.
Okay.
So, what did you pick for, or what would you pick for your disadvantages?
It was quite a choice to make because the ones that are offered for, Seeker, I know we're starting as sleepers and everything, but I wanted to choose appropriate disadvantages from that archetype anyway because I
Yes.
thought they fit very well. Haunted,
Okay.
because when you're dealing with antiquities, you never know what you might find.
Mm-hmm.
And also repressed memories, because I think that could definitely lend itself to that growing sense of horror during the course of the game, like something that I completely forgot about is coming back to bite me in the butt.
Yes.
So those were the two disadvantages I chose.
Okay, so when you're talking about repressed memories, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about something horrible that happened when this character was younger, or are we talking about something supernatural that happened that they are pushing down?
That's a very good question. I think it had to do a bit with their dark secret. Um,
Okay.
I think it plays more into the whole, like, when someone disappears from your life, like what necessarily, started that or what caused that disappearance, and maybe you might have had a point or a part in it. So it's kind of all connected. At least that's how it was in my head. But
So
again, I'm
I
open to.
I don't want to take agency away from you.
Okay, yep.
However, I think that there are some themes that this game deals with, involving the dark secret, that I'm going to take away from all of the players. So the dark secret belongs to me right now, unfortunately.
Oh
I
no.
know, I know. I'm sorry. Um,
No, that works. I actually kind of like that. It's going to throw a wrench into this character, probably.
I think it's going to just force us to be more creative on this PC creation phase. I did the same. I did the same thing to Rick, or Def Milk. So I do apologize. And typically, if I was running a regular cult game, I would not do this. But I want everybody to be a sleeper, and I want everyone to discover what that dark secret is over the course of the entire game. You're not going to discover it in one session. And there's a very specific dark secret, just to kind of let you in on a bit of, inside baseball here. I have a very specific dark secret that you are all going to discover, each one of you, over the course of the game, and it's going to be very interesting. And I'm really excited to see how you and your character reacts to that. So that said, we might have to stay away a little bit from supernatural edged dark secrets, or excuse me, supernatural edged disadvantages.
Okay. Gotcha. So probably no haunted then, right?
So that goes back to haunted. Yes. So
Okay.
that's a little more supernatural.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm
How?
wondering.
So I got repressed memories, maybe nightmares.
I love that.
Okay.
I love that. And you know what? It's almost kind of related to both.
Yeah,
You're
yeah, because
haunted by nightmares.
or the nightmares could be manifestations of repressed memories.
Mm-hmm.
So it all kind of weirdly works together.
I like that. I like that thought process. Yeah, it's kind of like I've got these nightmares, and it's my mind dealing with horrible stuff that might have happened, or why am I having these nightmares?
Maybe I watched too many horror flicks.
Well, she is into the occult, right? So she probably likes horror.
Probably
You
more
know,
than a skosh.
now how personally do you? I mean, we all have nightmares. What kind of nightmares do you typically have?
I can't really remember a whole lot of them other than just kind of waking up in the woods and not being able to get out of the woods.
That's frightening. So maybe we can use that a bit. Maybe she has those types of nightmares of like feeling alienated and lost and trying to get out of an unusual alien place.
Yeah, and when you've grown up either settled down in the city when you're in New York or when you traveled with your father as a kid and
Yep.
you're in all these foreign countries, it's like you've been in a few of these forests, but you're not quite sure which one it is.
Especially if she's joining her father on an ethnology, right? He's studying some kind of I don't know. This is cliche, but tribe somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I mean, that's scary. All the animals and the bugs, and your father's asleep, and you're kind of drifting in and out of consciousness. I mean, that stuff kind of picks into your brain a little bit, right?
All that unfamiliarity,
Yeah.
that's a nightmare.
So let's see. I want to talk. So we're talking about recurring nightmares, and I like this. I kind of want to play with this a little bit. I want to read a little bit what the nightmare disadvantage is. So unless you have it up,
Oh, no, go right ahead.
because you could read it if you want.
Nope, I don't have it up, so.
Okay, no worries. So let me just grab it here. Okay, so you suffer from recurring nightmares, probably connected to your dark secret. During any scene, when you sleep, roll a +0. Um, Now let's talk about the mechanics of what this means. So if you get a 15 or above, you sleep in peace, no nightmares, everything's fine. But you have a risk, and this is you might have to roll a keep it together roll. If the nightmare torments you, there are some moves that I can make as a GM, and then if you kind of botch a roll, then the nightmare completely takes over. And we can have some really interesting scenes involving maybe some nightmare escapes, maybe some nightmare scenes. What do you think about that?
I like it.
Cool. Oh, that's gonna be fun. Okay, so I really like this. Okay, so you get one more. Let's move on.
Okay. Well, we were going to do the repressed memories, weren't we?
We were, but let's see. Repressed memories. I think let's choose a different one.
Okay. Let me find that list. Try to find what page is it? Do you know?
Yes, I do. Hold on. Oops.
Oh, found it,
I
I
literally
think.
just had it up.
All right.
So it is page. Is that page 89 for those that are following at home? You have a whole list of all your disadvantage ups.
All right.
Now, there's a few here. While you're looking, I'm just gonna kind of rattle off a few for those that are watching.
Mhm.
There's things like, bad reputation. You're hated by the public for something you're accused of, or a liar. You're a compulsive liar. That's a fun one. We talked about nightmares. There's things like, rationalist. Your mind refuses to acknowledge anything except the things confirmed by modern science. Or nemesis. You have an enemy who does everything in their power to take revenge on you. You're a student, so I'm not sure if that one necessarily would apply.
I think rival.
Rival. Let's see.
Rival would be probably a good one.
Yeah, you have an ambitious rival who would do anything to be in your shoes. Who is this rival?
You know, We can totally keep that open. Maybe I don't realize that I have a rival. Maybe it's entirely one-sided, as rivalries sometimes can be.
Maybe it's someone you think is a friend.
Could be,
Maybe another student.
probably. Or someone who's probably either a rival or someone who is jealous,
Yeah.
possibly.
I like the idea of maybe another anthropology student. Like you're like this rock star anthropologist. See, there's like a culture of who's the better anthropologist in this school of anthropology. There are certain teachers that kind of, I mean, just like any school, right? That
Yeah.
hold up one student or the other. And you have a father who is like in the school, in the anthropology department, and has a little bit of fame himself in this world. I don't know. Could cause some jealousy in some people.
It's like I've seen anthropology departments. It can get pretty ruthless.
Ooh, and maybe there might have been some. Maybe there might have been some situations involving projects that were, you know, played around with, taken from, or cheated off of, etc.
Or like the every dreaded group project, someone not pulling their own weight, or you getting all the credit.
Are you that person, or are they the rival?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I mean, when you're trying to get into a competitive program and, trying to really make a name for yourself, it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah, and maybe your character's, it can go two ways. Either your character is thinking that this person is not pulling their own weight, but they're also thinking the same thing about you, or you're thinking, well, it's like kind of whatever group project we get into, we're all doing our best, and you're really understanding and cool about it. Which
Not
one's
quite
more
sure
fun?
which one it would be. I don't know. I like both of them because part of me is like, yeah, she's probably like, doesn't take it super seriously because it's like, look, we're like second year. It's not quite to that cutthroat level just yet because we're not doing internships or anything like that. So yeah, I think the character might take that more kind of leisurely, like, hey, let's just all do our best, and the other person's like, oh my god, why are you doing everything? This sucks.
Yeah,
Right, all the credit.
and your character has I mean, they probably think, this girl's got it made. She didn't have to really do anything. I have to work my ass off. This girl gets everything, a free
Just
ride.
hand it to them.
Yeah, interesting. I like that. What's this?
That can get dark pretty fast.
Oh, can, especially with the pressures of university. So, is this? I like this. So we've got. Let's wait until we talk about relations to kind of flesh out this other character.
Okay.
In the meantime, typically, if you're creating a character that had an archetype, we would be talking about advantages. Unfortunately, Erykah, you get none right now. But boo indeed. But as we go through the game, think about what those advantages might be. You have modifiers. There are two different kinds of attributes. There are passive attributes and there are active attributes. The passive ones represent fortitude, reflexes, and willpower. So really the idea is, how is your character affected by something? And then the active attributes are charisma, coolness, intuition, perception, reason, soul, and violence.
Okay.
So let's start with the big three. Let's start with fortitude, reflexes, and willpower.
All right.
So you get some expenditures. You can assign a +2, a +1, or a +0 to any one of those. So let's start from the bottom, right? What are you worse with? Let's start with the 0.
Probably fortitude. I mean, I am a college student, and it's probably not like me to be hitting the gym or being super strong of body when your noggin's probably the stronger muscle.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking maybe your +1 will be reflexes.
Correct. You have guessed correctly.
And I mean, keeping it together as far as willpower goes, using that noggin is a big part of what your character does, right?
Yep.
Like you
So
said, everything is normal.
everything is fine. This is fine.
Yeah, high willpower. I like that. Strong inside, but not as physically strong. Cool.
Sounds about right. Yep,
So
this is fine.
yeah, so like I mean, it makes sense too. You know, if you're going on adventures with your dad, you probably enjoyed the ones that involved more books than walking around the trail.
I mean, there was probably plenty of it, but like, it's probably not fun to take a 10-year-old at the time, like, hiking through the Himalayas at any point in time.
Yeah, so
So,
she probably avoided a lot of that kind of activity as she grew up a little bit older.
yeah, maybe when she was like, in her mid-teens, probably went on a couple of, excursions like that, but not enough to really make you like, the trailblazing, commando type.
Makes sense, and I think it's in a case where she has to kind of when things are physically taxing, she's still able to kind of hold herself emotionally together, even though she's physically weaker.
And push through.
Right. So let's talk about the active attributes. We have charisma, coolness, intuition, perception, reason, soul, and violence. With your modifiers, you have a +3, +2, +1, +1, +0, -1, and -2. So what's your worst? What's -2?
Probably coolness. I mean, academia, while she thinks she's cool, most people are like, ugh, you're an academic. So probably also doesn't do too well under pressure, even though like, I'm in a pretty intense program, but at the same time it's like finals are still a thing and writing papers are still a thing, and doesn't matter how many adventures and how many years I spent outside of the country with my dad doing these cool things. Yikes.
So maybe she flips out a little bit more than others. Like she
Yeah.
can hold it. She has high will power. She can hold it, push herself through, but she'll talk about it the whole
Yeah.
time.
Complain about it the whole time.
Yeah.
I gave a -1 to violence because, again, unless I'm hitting something with a book, probably not going to be too keen on the violence.
Okay, makes sense. How about 0? What's the baseline?
Charisma.
Oh, okay. So she's not totally likable.
Well, I mean, again, like, you kind of grow up not in a mainstream, sort of childhood.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of like that. The person who didn't have all that socialization necessarily. Like, you're used to being around adults, not peers your own age. So you can't really relate.
Yeah, you could probably talk to adults as a 10-year-old better than other ten
Yeah,
year olds.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
and then your +1 or one of your +1s.
One of my +1s is intuition. When you're around a bunch of people from different cultures, you kind of learn to really gauge situations. And then for the other one, I gave a +1 to reasoning.
Yeah, that scans. It scans really well. So for your +2,
Perception.
ooh, interesting. Okay, so you're
And then
very
plus,
alert. You're very aware of
yeah,
your surroundings. Well,
yep.
maybe your father was studying either like a culture out somewhere in Africa or Southern America or Central America, somewhere that's like a little more wilderness. So it's kind of giving you okay, let me just be careful because there's actual dangers around here, you know?
Hmm. Like when you're traveling or when you're dealing with, cultures or societies that, haven't had a lot of outside interaction, like you got to make sure that you don't cross a line that might get you in trouble.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to observe, read the situation. So that's why the intuition perception are kind of important.
Yeah. And they're so connected to each other as far as one or the other. Um, Now, your +3,
Hmm.
your top.
Soul.
That is interesting. We're talking about how sensitive the character is to supernatural forces. You have these reoccurring nightmares as a disadvantage, but maybe that helps thin the veil a little bit and gives you an ability to be sensitive to those types of things. Perhaps maybe she's in order to Maybe in order to kind of overcome some of her nightmares, she's tried to utilize like lucid dreaming techniques.
Meditation.
Yeah, you know, I kind of like the idea of maybe she there's a thing in mindfulness where you kind of have an object that you use to kind of help keep yourself grounded. Um, you know, some people like carry soft stones in their pocket to kind of calm themselves down. Other people who are focusing on lucid dreaming will like they'll have a coin or something, kind of like what is that movie
Inception where he has the top.
where he has a top? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or like people will flip a coin or look at both sides of the coin, or it's something that it's like a little totem to kind of keep them grounded and let them know that am I dreaming? Am I not dreaming? Um, what do you think about that idea? Do you like
I
it
do.
or do you not?
No, I like that. I think that really would kind of fit. I mean, again, the PC's gone, across a lot of different cultures. It's probably like, chilled out in Cambodia, maybe like, meditated with some Buddhist monks,
Yeah.
studied a little bit in Tibet. So definitely kind of that mindfulness, the meditation, I think would really work well.
Yeah, and maybe I'll let you think about that. What kind of object would be best to kind of carry around in her pocket? Um, it would be cool to have that literally in my back pocket to use later, but also a way for your character to kind of when shit's going down, you're not able to really hold it together, but you have something that'll help you at least a little bit. But ultimately can serve to kind of help open the doors of perception.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so let's talk about what this person looks like. Obviously, we've said she a bunch of times. I'm going to assume her gender here and say that this is a woman.
Yes.
In college, a student, so I'm going to also guess that this is an undergrad program.
Yep.
So, and you said second year, so I'm going to assume around 19.
1920.
Okay. What does she normally wear? Like what does she look like?
We are doing this in the 80s, right? So
Oh yeah,
I
we
think
are. Yes,
I,
yeah.
I, I think like quintessential sort of like, kind of punky new wave, like, yeah, she's an academic, but she's also very much into kind of also counterculture and subcultures,
Right.
anthropology. So
Yeah. Maybe listens to a
listen,
lot of Bauhaus.
actually, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Bauhaus is on her playlist.
Is it really? Yes.
Yeah, and Joy Division and Susie and the Banshees because
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
Susie has to be there.
yes, definitely. Gonna get that Susie hair too. So
Oh, so is she like full like new wave kind of lot of really dramatic makeup, kind of pre-goth?
yeah. Yeah, that's how I really pictured her. It's just kind of being like, yeah, I'm an academic, but she doesn't look like the academic you would assume, someone who was a serious academic in the 80s. She definitely looks like the person that everyone's like, why are you here?
That's really cool cuz yeah, there's sort of this counterculture look about her, but she's very much into her studies and serious about anthropology.
Yeah, and it's also kind of is maybe in her own way like a way to sort of gauge how other people approach different like cultures and subcultures because that's also part of anthropology to a point is like you've got these cultures and sociology as well. And it's like if this is how you react to someone who's not part of your culture, what does it say about your culture?
Yeah, I'd rather be different in the side. I would rather be separate from that culture.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
in like the '80s kind of gothic, new wave makeup styles. There seems to be a lot of influence on other cultures as far as what type of makeup you wear and very dramatic, various parts of your face that you're coloring with various makeups. What is that guy? Was it Adam Ant? I don't know if he's new wave. Does he count as new
Um,
wave?
yeah, I think Adam Ant definitely counts as new wave, and so does Culture Club. So Boy George
Yeah.
also.
Yes. So there's like this camp, but also war paint idea that I
Yeah,
is very
yeah.
cool. Like the way that Susie used to do her makeup.
Yeah, so you got Susie, you've also got Cyndi Lauper's makeup, you've
Mm-hmm.
also got 80s Pat Benatar, like with her like very contoured, very strong eyeshadow as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I like this chick. She's pretty awesome. So she probably goes to a lot of shows then. If she's into the scene, is she into the scene?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, awesome. Um, okay, so I'm assuming dark hair, but probably multicolored, blonde hair, red hair. What are we looking at?
I was thinking dark hair.
Yeah,
The character is biracial, so
great. Now what does that mean for her as far as how she
for her,
identifies?
so she's biracial. Her father was Chinese by
Hmm.
way of Hong Kong, and her mother was European descent American.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So she's got this very kind of two sources of cultural influence, which would explain a bit of a curiosity of looking at things from an outsider perspective. Not
Especially
quite.
because, yeah, because back in the 80s, even being biracial is still kind of like like
Yeah.
people didn't really talk about it. It's like, how do you identify? It's like,
Yeah.
there wasn't even an option on like, on applications like, how do you identify? And it's like, what do I check? Because I'm kind of neither Caucasian nor entirely Asian.
Yeah. Kind of
And even today, that's still kind of a thing too.
definitely. And this idea of kind of racial categories, which is as a construct, is kind of a bizarre thing to think about.
Hmm.
Um, Interesting. Okay, cool. I like that. And then, so what's her name?
Avery Lee.
Avery Lee. Avery. Awesome. So
Hmm.
for those that are watching, the next time you see Erykah's little box, it'll have the name Avery Lee on the bottom. Probably just Avery. Maybe Avery Lee.
Yep.
Mrs. Lee. Miss Lee, excuse me. Um, so as a sleeper, you get some distractions. So Avery has something that she does to distract herself from the world, whatever that might be. It's to kind of enable them to stay a sleeper. Now, what would that be? I mean, the book suggests you can choose one or a few. Dating services, discussion forums. Discussion forums probably wouldn't be it because it takes place in the 80s. Exercise, fashion, interior design, online gaming. That wouldn't be it either. This is the 80s, remember. Reality television, shopping, social media apps, TV series, etc., etc., etc. So, what do you think? You can create one of your own. You don't have to pick one.
I think definitely probably like going to shows, like finding like those little sort of dive venues where you're just like maybe 100 people all squished in listening to some like indie new wave or wannabe garage band jamming out in a piss filled bar basically. So
Yeah, I like
definitely
that.
has like a wall of ticket stubs.
So yeah, and it's New York, so she can go check out CBGB's, or she can go even
Yep.
to like a crappier dive bar with bottles thrown at a cage with a band behind it.
Yep.
So I'm also going to suggest maybe music is a big part of her distraction
Yep.
too. So not just going to shows, but also listening to her cassette Walkman.
Oh yeah, definitely got myself a Sony Walkman.
Oh yeah. So always has the little kind of chintzy wired headphones around her neck at all times, just in case.
Yep.
I love it. Did they have big ones back in the 80s? I don't remember. Maybe.
Like cans.
Yeah.
Possibly, but I think standard wise, it just came with those really sort of
Little shitty
cheapy,
guys.
yeah, the little shitty ones.
Hmm. So okay, cool. So I like that. So she has music. She has tape decks that are kind of rolling around in her bag of various bands, and she likes to go to a show whenever she needs to unwind.
Hmm.
Cool. Um, oh, I get to create a place. So as we're going through here, I'm kind of noting there's a university, there's a that I want to kind of create as part of the setting. There's a club of that I'm probably going to base off of CBGBs off the top of my head. Probably might actually be CBGBs. Who knows?
Why
Um, why not? Um, so speaking of location, she lives at school. Where does she live?
not? Probably lives in one of the Chinatowns. I haven't decided exactly which one because apparently there are quite a few Chinatowns in New York.
There
So
are. There are. There's so w- think about it.
Yeah.
Which one you want to live in. I would suggest, and we'll probably take this conversation a little bit offline to talk about specifically where in the 80s was kind of the more grittier one. It's up to you. I'll leave that up to you. Wherever you decide, I'm game.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, so somewhere in some Chinatown in Manhattan.
Yep.
Got to be Manhattan, by the way. So,
Gotta be Manhattan. All right.
and then you can think about where you live, your residence. I'll let you kind of take control on what that looks like, what kind of apartment you have, yada yada. So, when we do get to those spots where you can describe the place that you live, you can go crazy and talk all about it.
Excellent.
Um, so what is her personality like?
You know, she's definitely kind of like a student who,
Yeah.
knows that she can achieve, but sometimes she's just like, I'm 20-ish, and sometimes I don't want to go to school, but I still love my subject. Like, kind of really struggling with the whole, I like doing what I'm doing and I like what I'm studying, but at the same time, I'm a young adult and I still want to go out and have fun. And being in the dusty library isn't always my idea of fun.
She's got a father who's very much involved in kind of scholastic achievement, academic achievement. Um, and maybe he puts on a lot of pressure on her, so there's a bit of a rebellious edge to her.
Probably also seen by her music and her wardrobe choices.
Yes, exactly. Ooh, I like that. So yeah, so maybe she's like, I can't be perfect all the time.
Yeah, definitely going through that youthful rebellion stage.
Yeah, which also explains her lack of coolness. Maybe she's like maybe she's very like straightforward, like kind of has a bit of a kind of a personality edge to her that might rub some people the wrong way, but if you get to know her, then you go, oh, she's just like shoots from the hip and tells the
Yeah,
truth no
yeah.
matter
I
what.
mean, you're kind of blunt sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking like possibly like a very sarcastic, dry wit.
Yeah, I like that. The dry wit and sarcasm. It's it's very cool that culture too, you know? Like I remember I was a little bit of a goth kid when I was in high school. And that was a personality trait that was celebrated in these types of countercultures. Like, oh, you got a bit of an edge and you kind of have a sarcastic tone. If you're a bit of a dick, then you're all right by me. Cool.
It's
All
like I'm
right.
a dick, but I'm their dick, so they tolerate me.
Well, there's something about that too. Like I know that I can trust. What was her name again?
Avery.
I know that if I ask Avery about something, she's going to tell me the truth, even if I don't want to hear it.
I mean,
Also, she's a
sometimes
badass.
she might tell you it like in a way where it's just like, I'm not really considering your feelings because totally not cool. But
There's an honesty in that, though.
yeah, but there's also like, a point where you have to realize like, okay, maybe I was a little bit too real.
Oh, I hurt people's
Sorry.
feelings. Shit. Sorry you feel that way.
I'm sorry your feelings are like not weak or not strong. Get better feelings.
I grow a tougher skin. I don't know what to tell you. I love it. That's cool. Because then, people can either love me or hate me. This is who I am.
Unapologetically themselves.
Cool. Um, so let's talk about relations.
Okay.
So there are certain strengths here. You can have a neutral relation, which is kind of friends, acquaintances, people that you just kind of know in class and you see in passing, coworkers. Does she work, by the way?
Mm,
Or does Daddy
probably.
pay for everything?
Ooh, ooh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, she probably works part time, probably like,
Record store, maybe?
maybe a record store, maybe even like restaurant in Chinatown, just kind of waiting tables. Yeah, it's nothing great. Yeah, don't make a
Yeah,
whole lot of money, but at least it's my money.
I like that better. Yeah, she works at a restaurant.
because my dad won't let me buy but dad won't pay for my edgy clothes, so I have to work a part-time job to pay them myself.
And you got to get money for those tickets too.
Yeah, because he's also not wanting me to go see Bauhaus.
Yeah, maybe he wanted to get you into like classical music or something cheesy like that when you were young. Ugh.
He wanted me to play the cello.
Yeah, play the cello.
Play the piano. No, not interested.
Although now that you like all these bands, like they're so good at their instruments, it's almost making you like, oh, maybe I should have played a little bit more when I was being pressured by my father. Sort of like Rasputina. Remember Rasputina?
Yes, yes.
I don't know if that's
That'd be
80s.
hilarious, though. Just be like, it's like, man, I should have been like a keyboardist.
Yeah, I should have practiced piano more often.
But maybe I could pick up the synthesizer since, yeah, maybe.
Maybe she has a synthesizer, but she
Just in
can't.
the corner.
All she can play is like those, like 2 or 3 classical songs that she was forced to learn when she was little.
Or like Frere Jacques or like Au
Hmm.
Clair de la Lune.
Yeah, but like can't really quite get that New Order type of sound because it's so simple. You're too smart for your own good.
Uh, well, not all of us can be like, amazing professional cellist, doctor, lawyers.
So okay, let's talk about relations. Well, I'm gonna have you pick 3. Okay, you get a friend or acquaintance, you get a close friend or family member, or romantic interest, even a pet. You can have a pet if you want to, or you can have someone who's vital. This is a boyfriend, a girlfriend, you're a soulmate, a friend, a true friend, a family member that you're really really close with. Let's start with the easy one. Um, a neutral friend, someone that you're cool with.
Do I need to come up with a name or?
No, come up with just a concept. We can figure out names later.
Probably like someone from like one of my study groups.
Okay.
We've taken similar classes together, and we've kind of been like, okay, we're kind of interested into like the same particular field, so
Maybe
why not? Yeah,
another anthropology student or another student in the school.
yeah, another student in the school.
Doesn't even have to be the same program.
No, they could even have like an anthro minor or whatever.
Yeah, maybe it's like a business student that like just kind of likes anthropology and took it as an elective.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool.
And
Or
of course, business being very big in the 80s.
maybe like a yuppie kind of type that like is kind of the complete opposite, but you guys kind of get along for some reason.
Yeah, maybe he's like the one I take to like these shows, and he's wearing like his very yuppie like sweater wrapped around his neck type deal. And it's like, yeah, we're gonna go see some like garbage bands, and he's like, cool, and it's like this grungy, you know, people haven't bathed for days, crust punk show.
Yeah, he's like this guy that sticks out like a sore thumb. He likes the music, he just doesn't like the scene.
Yeah, like
Which
he enjoys music, but he won't dress.
he won't get into it. He won't do the makeup or anything like that. He won't tease his hair out.
No,
So maybe that's
he is,
why he's not as close of a friend.
yeah, he's like a good business acquaintance.
Cool. Now, what about a meaningful friend? This could be a close friend, a family member, a romantic interest like a crush, or a beloved pet, personal mentor, a guru.
I'm gonna say pet, because
Yes.
I've got pets, and it's kind of easy if I can just like grab my cat for like 5 minutes and pet them on screen.
Awesome. This is a cat? This pet?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to name this pet today.
Oh no.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let's not name her yet, or him. What color?
Probably black.
Probably black.
I mean, that is basically the aesthetic. Be like, yeah, because again, it goes back to superstitions. There's the superstitions about black cat. I have a black cat.
Yeah, she really like embraces that. She's kind of like
Yeah.
Death from Sandman. Is that her name? Death? Do you know the comic Sandman?
Yeah.
The girl with like
Yeah,
the ankh on her eye.
That's death.
Yeah. I think she has a cat, or maybe I'm thinking of I don't know what comic I'm thinking of. Is it Amelia the Strange? Elizabeth the Strange?
Emily the Strange.
Emily the Strange. She always has a cat.
Yes.
Cool. Think about what we're gonna name that cat.
All right.
because that thing's gonna follow you everywhere.
Meow.
Maybe we'll get you like a bag. Maybe she has like a bag or something that holds her cat.
It's like one of those little cat carriers that, we suddenly see all the time for people and their chihuahuas nowadays.
Yeah, but she's not doing it because she's like, oh, this is my fashion statement. She's doing it because her dad doesn't like her cat or something, or like she doesn't want to leave her cat alone for too long.
It's my, my good luck charm. Cat.
It's my totem. Okay, cool. And then let's see, vital. This is we'll call this a +2 relation. This is someone who is a passionate lover, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, you're one of your own children, the only friend you have left in the world, your true love, an obsession, or a soulmate.
Ooh. Could it be a family member too, or?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Strangely enough, not the father. Probably the father's mother, so grandma.
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 And this is dad's mom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So and she's from Hong Kong as well?
Yes.
So maybe she I like that. So grandma is kind of like this old matriarch. It's that you talk to for advice and anything else. Maybe you go and complain to your grandmother about your dad.
Yeah. Of course, probably get an earful of like, he's your father, you have to respect him, and be like, yeah, nah. I have to respect him, but it doesn't mean he's not being dumb.
I'm also going to put your dad as a meaningful relation.
Okay.
You'll have 4, just
Okay.
because he needs to be there and he's there. But maybe he's a little hands off. Maybe he's not as in the picture so much because you try to push him away as much as possible.
That and like, he's still probably going around traveling and doing,
Yeah.
different sabbatical projects, so he's not always on campus and in residence.
Yeah, so you see grandma a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What do you call her?
Baba.
Baba. Aw, Baba. I love this little grandma. Is she's like a little Asian woman who is always making sure that you're okay and fed and making sure that you have everything you need, and is always, it will tell you, maybe she tells you the truth to you as well. Maybe she gives you what you give everybody.
Yeah, basically it's like, if it's like for as much shit as Avery gives other people, grandma gives it back twice as hard.
Yeah, so she looks up to her for that.
Yeah.
But also,
she takes after her grandma a little bit too much.
I love that. Man, what a cool woman. This grandma, this Baba. All right, so you obviously live alone, or do you live with grandma?
Probably live with grandma. Like if dad's like, always traveling, someone's got to take care of, the grandma.
Maybe grandma doesn't like the cat, or she's allergic or something.
Could be.
And
Or think the cat's bad luck. And I'm just like, no, cat is not bad luck.
Because she's really superstitious.
Yeah.
She's really into like Chinese medicine and stuff.
Yep.
Cool.
I mean, that's why we kind of live in Chinatown, because it's kind of what reminds her of, being back home.
Yeah.
It's more of a comfort thing for grandma than a comfort thing in terms of like, location and, architecture and
safety. Yeah, so maybe your character would live in the village rather than here.
Yeah, no, I'd still rather live in Chinatown, because, it's kind of still giving her that exposure to that part of her heritage and everything.
Maybe grandma speaks very little English.
Yeah. She speaks enough. She speaks enough to like, yell at people in English, but she's not. She's more comfortable speaking, Cantonese. So.
Yeah, that's great. It's a very saturated community, and she feels very at home in Chinatown. That's yes. Really cool. Okay. Ooh, we got some really cool NPCs out of this. So, as a reminder, the characters have lost someone important to them. Either a family member, a friend, a lover, a client, or an assignment. Someone close to you has suggested a monthly group therapy meeting at the local elementary school called Friends of Forgotten. Other people who are coping with survivor's guilt meet to talk about their problems and find solidarity. Maybe this is exactly what you need to get better and move on like everybody wants. So, that said, who's missing?
I was actually going to say her father. Initially.
That is amazing. Yeah, her dad. Oh my God. Sorry, that's wonderful.
It took you out for a moment.
Yeah, that was like dun dun dun. My
uh,
dad. He's become such like a I kind of like this guy. I'm building kind of what his personality would be like and what kind of person he is, but he's gone. Oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah, that fits. Okay, so he's gone under he and but he's gone, but maybe he does something that to like kind of check in. Maybe he sends you like postcards from the areas that he's going and visiting, and he hasn't. Or maybe
yeah.
he's been gone for a really long time, but there's something that leads you to believe that he's not dead, but everyone's kind of forgotten about him, right? Grandma's
Yeah.
grandma's moved on. Her son is dead, as far as she's concerned. Nowhere. Where the hell did he go? Who knows? Probably dead. But to you, you're like, no, I know he's alive, and I got to figure out what the hell happened to him. Cool. So, do you think Grandma convinced you to go to this meeting?
Probably be like, come on, you need to move on. Because maybe she had gone herself.
Maybe. Yeah.
And she got
Maybe.
over it. And she got over it. And then she's like, ah, no, I've accepted it. I've moved on.
This Friends of Forgotten group has various meeting sessions across this, all around the city. The one that you're going to be going to is in Harlem, but there's one in Murray Hill. There's one in Hell's Kitchen. There's probably one in Chinatown. It's kind of like an Al-Anon, or like just kind of a group therapy nonprofit organization that is helping people in the city cope with moving on. It's a dangerous city. There's a lot of death. Um, there's the crack epidemic, the AIDS epidemic is starting. So these types of programs are extremely important to help people move on. So yeah, maybe she went to the one in the local Friends of Forgotten meeting and told you all about it.
I think that would be a very good seed into it.
And you're not going to go to the one your grandma goes to, because then she's
Oh,
just going to
no.
yell at you the whole time.
Yeah. Or, like, get all the other aunties and uncles who might have gone as well in Chinatown to all start yelling at her.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go to one where I can actually, like, talk in more English and actually get my point across because she can speak Cantonese, but it's like, kind of that pigeon, like, goes between the two, and it's just like I don't communicate that well in that language. So
Yeah, and maybe her meeting is mostly in Cantonese, so it's not exactly targeted towards English speakers. So, yeah, that would make sense. You go to the one in Harlem. You just kind of pick around. I'm going to pick this one, like kind of poke at the list of locations. And this is the one. It just so happens to be Harlem. Awesome. Well, I think we got ourselves a pretty solid character here. She's very cool. Let's remind everyone what her name is.
Avery Lee.
Avery Lee. Awesome. And she's missing her father. And her grandmother has convinced her to go to Friends of Forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you to think about a couple of things. I want you to
Okay.
think about the... Let's think about your NPCs a little bit.
Okay.
So I can get some suggestions off of you.
Okay.
Your cat in particular. We got to have a name for the cat, and your character has to name the cat, so you have to name the cat. I won't.
Okay.
Let's think about the idea of, excuse me, your character sheet. Let's build that out.
Okay.
Dot it out if you haven't yet.
Yep.
And then kind of start thinking about your character just a little bit more as far as attitude and everything else, get into character. The next time we will see you, Avery will be on her way, walking, either taking a train, driving, whatever you think. I mean, think about where you're going to live in the city.
Oh, she's definitely going to be one of the people who takes all the public transit. Doesn't. Why do you need a car in New York?
Right. Yes. Exactly. So, and how far away that is to Harlem, where you're living. So, th- think
It
about
just
the
makes more
logistics.
sense. Yeah, it just takes more sense to go take a train.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
And
Perfect.
rules.
Yeah, she's very comfortable in the subway. Um, Perfect. And then next time we see you, Avery will be walking from the station to the Friends of Forgotten meeting, and we will meet everybody else, and you'll get to figure out what happens next. Is there anything that you wanted to cover about your character that I did not ask you about?
No, I think actually we covered a lot more than I had initially had flushed out, which I like
Mm-hmm.
because this whole negotiation with your GM of creating the character, making sure it fits within the scope of the game is stuff I like to do, which is why I try to leave my characters as open-ended as possible
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to come in with a preconceived notion of this is what this character is and then it doesn't necessarily fit with the setting. So,
Thank you for doing
but
that, by the way. I appreciate it.
in that instance, I don't really, know the setting that entirely well. I felt that was also the best way to go.
Yeah, and for everyone who's watching, I don't think we've mentioned it a couple of times, but this is going to take place in New York City, in Manhattan, during the 1980s. So early 1980s. So there's not going to be a lot of cell phones.
Yeah, wasn't it like 1986 that we decided on?
I
So
believe
kind of,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, nice smack dab in the middle, 1986. Cold War is in full swing. We've got Reagan as president, I believe.
Yes.
The economic boom is happening because of all the deregulation, and New York City is kind of a scary place because there are no police in the subway. There are neighborhoods that police are just completely bypassing. If you go to Broadway, it's kind of peppered with kind of sleazy porn theaters, and there's quite a lot of organized crime that are taking over various neighborhoods. So it's an interesting setting. It's going to be fun to explore. If anybody wants to watch the other episodes, I suggest that you do. You can find them here on Twitch. On video on demand, but we're also immediately over the next couple of days uploading these episodes over to YouTube, so you can go check them out on YouTube at Gehenna Gaming. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Gehenna Gaming, on Facebook Gehenna Games. If you want to support this session and all of our Twitch streams and podcasts, I suggest that you do. For those that are already supporting us, thank you so much. It means a lot emotionally, but also logistically, so we can actually keep the lights on and continue to do these types of sessions. Erykah, thank you
Yep.
so much for exploring your character with me.
No, thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right, everybody, and until next time, I believe on Tuesday we have on Tuesday we were going to have Josephine McAdams come on our Twitch stream at 8 p.m. sharp Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you watch that so you can ask her some questions. That's going to be a lot of fun. She's obviously from LA by night. And I think that's all I have to share. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.